15 minutes about how you can be safe when you go to the water. Right? It's very important to know how to be safe. Before I start, so I know about you guys and where you might be from, who wants to tell me where they're from? What countries are represented? Yes?
I'm from Nepal.
From Nepal. There's no beaches in Nepal, are there?
No.
No. Where else are we from? Yes? Mexico. Mexico. Beautiful beach in Mexico. Sure. Someone else mentioned too. Anywhere else? Mexico too. Lots of Mexicans there. Yes. India. Unreal. What about the back? Sri Lanka. Beautiful. One more. Mongolia. Wow. I've never been to Mongolia. But the reason I ask, guys, I'm sure there are more countries too, but all of us today are from different parts of the world. In every part of the world, the nature is different, especially the water. And in Australia and in Victoria, what's really different is our water. Okay, it's very unique and it's very different to everywhere else in the world. So if you've been to the water in your home country or a country that you've visited, it's different to here. So while our water is very beautiful, I encourage you to please go when the weather's better. I'd like you to enjoy it, but there are a few things you need to know so you can be safe, because it's very unique, our water. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. So today, guys, I'm going to teach you about 6 different tips, okay? But before I do that, I just want to explain why it's important to be safe at the water. Because last year in Australia, all around Australia, in the last 1 year, 281 people drowned or died in the water last year. That's a lot of people, okay? It's close to one person every day. It's a lot of people, okay? And it can happen to anyone. One of the realities, unfortunately, to team, is that a lot of the people who drowned last year were new to Australia. They might have been international students or visitors or migrants, because like I said, the waters here is different, and those people might not have known about the water here. So I encourage you, please, before you go to the water, just learn about a couple of tips to keep yourself safe, okay? These are a couple of these tips. I will give you 6 tips to remember that will keep you safe, all right? Tip number 1 is to always swim with a friend. And when we say swim, anytime you go to the water, if you go to the water for a picnic, or maybe you're visiting a beautiful beach where you're going to have a walk, take some photos, anything like that, if you're near the water, always go with your friends, okay? If something happens to your friends, you can help your friend. If something happens to you, your friends can help you, all right? It's really important to always go to the water with your friends and look after each other. Also, if you're trying to do a fun trip, it's also just more fun to go with your friends, so it's a good idea, okay? But it's very important to always be with someone in the water. Lifeguards, when we're working at the beach, even we're not allowed in the water on our own. We have to have someone watching us, making sure we're safe all the time, because anything can happen, right? So, first thing to remember, if you're ever planning to go near the water, please go with your friends. Everyone got it? Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up. You got it? Nice one. Step number 2, this is a really important thing to remember, is to swim between the flags. Before I explain this, can I just get a show of hands? Who has heard of the red and yellow flags before? Please put up your hand if you've heard of them. It's okay if you haven't. A handful of people, that's good. If you haven't, like I said, that's okay. It's good to learn properly. Now, in different countries in the world, there's different versions of these flags, okay? But in Australia, it works like this. The first thing is that they're red and yellow, all right? That's the first thing to know. The same as my uniform. I'm wearing my uniform today to show you. It's red and yellow. All around Australia, the lifeguards wear red and yellow. They're like our team colours, all right? So the first thing, if you see the red and yellow flags, this is a good thing, because it means lifeguards are working here now. So first, the red and yellow flags, that's good. It's a good thing. But the main thing we're showing you is that the safe place to swim is here, in the middle of the flags. We always use two. We put them side by side to say this is the safe place to swim is in between the flags. Now that's because at the beach, all of the water is different, okay? And it's always changing because of the tide, the wind, the waves, the weather, something called a rip, many, many other things. It means that all of the water is not the same. Some water can be safe and some water can be dangerous. So when the lifeguards come to the beach in the morning, we check all of the water and we put the flags in the safe place, okay? So what this is showing you is that this is the safe place to swim. Tomorrow, the safe place will be different. Yesterday, it was different, all right? This is the only safe place to swim today. Also, it means you're near lifeguards, we can help you. There are many, many places around Victoria that you can find the red and yellow flags before you go to the beach. I will explain how you can do that in a minute, okay? But number two, probably the main thing to remember is to swim between the flags. If you do this, you'll always be safe. There's nothing to worry about. A third tip, something that's always good to do is to check the signs. At every beach around Australia, there's signs like this. When you arrive, if you're new to the place, stop, take a moment, have a look around, read the signs, see what it says. You can see on the sign there's different kinds of pictures, okay? Telling you different things. Have a look at it, check it out. Also, when I talk about signs, not just signs like this, but also there can be signs of behaviour on the beach. For example, if you arrive to a beach and there is absolutely nobody there, there's no one on the sand, there is no one in the water, there is no one in the car park, what might that be telling you? What might you think if no one's here? Sorry? Maybe it's off limits. I heard it's not safe. Good ideas, exactly. There might be something wrong, okay? Maybe for some reason the locals know, the people who live here might know it's not a safe place ever or today. It's a little bit like a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant and there's no one eating in the restaurant, it's a bit of a warning sign, isn't it? Maybe it's not good for me. But you go to a very busy restaurant where there's lots of people, it's a good sign. Use this kind of feeling for a beach as well. If there's no one around, something feels a bit wrong, choose a different place, okay? But think about those things to keep yourself safe. And checking the signs is one really good way to do that. The fourth thing to do before you go to the water is check the weather. Because in Melbourne, like I said, I'm not sure how long you've been here, but while you live here, you know that the weather can change very fast in Victoria and in Melbourne, especially near the water. When the weather changes, the water changes. And it can go like this, from very safe, it looks like a nice day here, to a very dangerous day. Windy with big waves. This is actually the same day, okay? You can see in the morning it was safe, in the afternoon it became dangerous because the weather changed. This happens most often in summer. When it's a beautiful hot day, a storm can arrive and the weather changes significantly. So before you go, check the weather, check it for the whole day. And also, check for where you're going. If you're driving down to the Great Ocean Road, don't check the weather for Melbourne. Many people make this mistake, and when you arrive at your destination, it's very different weather. So check the weather for your destination, check for the whole day, and make sure it's going to be a good day for the beach, alright? Very important is the wind, always important wind. That's step number 4. Step number 5 is an easy one. We don't want to end up like our friend here drinking her Macca's Coke, okay? But a very important thing to remember is to not mix alcohol and drugs or anything like that with the water, okay? When people drown in Victoria, we need to do an autopsy, you know what I mean, of their body. We need to check their body. The coroner, our police friends, help do an autopsy on the body so that the people can find out what happened. Now, over 50% of the time that someone drowns, they have alcohol or drugs or maybe both in their body, all right? Because we know what alcohol and drugs can do to our system. Maybe you take reckless behaviour and you're not working as well as you could, all right? So if you or your friends are drinking, taking any kinds of drugs or medication, don't let them swim, okay? You can go to the beach, have a nice swim, come back and have a beer later at home, all right? Especially important, this one, guys, for the young men, all right? Many of the young men who drown, nearly 80% of people who drown are men, unfortunately, and lots of them are young men who maybe have too much to drink, think they're a tough guy, do something silly, and get into trouble, all right? So avoid alcohol. That's an easy one to remember. But step number 6, tip number 6 is one of the main things I would lastly like to teach you, okay? This is something called a rip current, or sometimes we just say rip. Has anyone heard of this before? Please show me with your hand if you've seen this before. Some of the guys at the front, some people maybe, that's okay. And again, it's okay if you haven't. That's why I'm teaching you today. This thing called a rip is the most dangerous thing at the beach, okay, by far. Most people who drown and who need help at the beach need help because of this thing called a rip. It's very dangerous. If you know about the rip, it's easy to stay safe. But the big problem is, if you don't know about a rip, it's easy to make the wrong choice and do something that actually makes the situation worse, okay? So I'll explain what a rip is and how it works, and I'll give you some tips on how you can get help. Firstly, we can see this is a picture of a beach. We can all see the beach here. We can see the sand and the water, all right? Now, in the water, there are some different areas. First, on the left and the right, we can see this area with lots of white water where there are waves. There's waves here and there's waves here. Who knows why the water is white? Can I have a guess? It's because when the waves come up and then crash, all of the water gets mixed up, it gets oxygen, and it goes white. Like if you shake a drink bottle, it gets bubbles. It's the same thing here happening on a bigger scale, okay? So we can see the white waves push the water up onto the sand. So waves bring water up onto the sand. If you imagine that you're standing here and you're watching wave after wave bring more and more water to the beach. You think of all the water that's coming to the sand. All of this water, when it gets to the sand, it cannot just stop. That's very important. Water is very heavy and water is always moving. So when this water reaches the sand, it needs to find a way to get home or to get back out to sea. So what happens is the water pushes into one place, one area, where the water might be deeper. This is called the rip. We can see here the water is deep, dark, it's more blue, more green. And in this part of the water is flowing out to sea, like a river going out into the deep ocean. It's very, very strong, and the water's moving very, very fast. So if anyone goes in the water here, even if you're just up to your knees in very shallow water, the rip can pull you off your feet and drag you maybe 300 meters out to sea in just 2 or 3 minutes. It's really strong, it's very fast, and that's why it can be dangerous, okay? These arrows just show you some more about the direction of the water. The red arrows is the water flowing out in the rip. Now team, rips are a bit of a tricky concept, so just to help us learn a little bit more, I have a short video. It goes for 2 minutes. It gives different examples of rips, what they look like and how they work, okay?
Rip currents occur on most Australian beaches. They are a strong force and at times can be difficult to see. You might think you know how to spot a rip, but the fact is 70% of people can't. And 2 out of 3 people who think they can spot a rip get it wrong, sometimes with deadly consequences. Here's how a rip forms. When waves break on a beach, they push water towards the shoreline. Once that water reaches the shore, it has to find a way to get back out to sea. so it flows into the deeper channels and away from the shore. These deeper channels are called rip currents, or rips. Here are some examples of rips. They can behave and flow in different ways. They can be found against headlands, sometimes they flow directly out to sea. They can also flow at an angle. Or the current may circulate back to shore. These are the things to look for. Deeper, dark coloured water. Fewer breaking waves. A rippled surface surrounded by smooth waters. Anything floating out to sea or foamy, discoloured, sandy water flowing out beyond the waves. Rips don't always show all of these signs at once. Some rips may only have one or two signs. Always spend time checking the water before you go in. Don't risk the rip. If the beach is patrolled, then swim between the red and yellow flags. Visit beachsafe.org.au or download the app to find out what you don't know about rips.
Alright, team, did that make sense to everybody? Very good, I hope so. It's a useful video, just gives you some information now, so hopefully you're aware of a rip. You might have some idea what it looks like, okay? I'm nearly finished, just for 2 more minutes. If you go into a rip, firstly, this is how you can get help, okay? If you go in a rip, it's okay. The rip will not pull you underwater. So if you stay calm and do the right thing, you will be okay. One choice is you can try to swim to the white water, to the side. You might be able to find the white waves, swim to the side, and they can push you back. Okay? But remember, I should have said this earlier, never try to swim back against the rip, okay? This is how people get into big trouble and how they drown. If you try to swim against the rip, it's too strong, no one can do it, you will lose all your energy, and then you can begin to drown, okay? So do not try to fight the rip. Like I said, one choice, you can swim to the white waves, to the side, or a better choice, just float on your back. You can raise one hand and try to get help. This is again why you want to be near the lifeguards. If you need help, you want help quickly, right? You can raise your hand and call for help, and a lifeguard or maybe someone else will come to get you. But just stay calm, float on your back, and ask for help, okay? The rip will stop. It will not keep going to Tasmania or to New Zealand or something like this, all right? It will stop. So stay calm, just float, raise the tension, and you will be okay. This is an example of a lifeguard coming to help someone, right? You're near your friends. If your friends need help, call 000. Rather than ask the police, you can tell them someone needs help in the water, tell them where you are, all right? And they can come to help you. Now everyone, there are all the tips that I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much. So before I go, if you have your phone, please feel free to use this QR code to download our app. The app is called BeachSafe. It's free. There's no advertising or anything. On BeachSafe, this tells you everything you need to know before you go to the beach. So it'll tell you when and where there are lifeguards, what days and what times. It will also tell you everything you need to know. Weather, the wind, all of the tides, if the place is good for fishing or surfing, if it's safe, if it's dangerous, everything you need to know. So please feel free to download this, keep it in your phone, and when you want to go to the beach in your break or at the holidays, use this app to find out some good information. So thank you very much everybody, but if anyone has a question or anything, I've probably got a minute for some questions. Would anyone like to ask any questions?